Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Money Stylist podcast. If you guys are new to this podcast, we do hair. I started an extension brand called Natural Beauty Rose, and we have an academy called DKW Styling Academy. I feel like I'm really repping the brand, but the reason I'm
My hat was outside. I feel like I should have worn it.
But your hair looks cute. Mine, you literally like, why does your hair still have kinks in it from yesterday's class? And you basically were trying to say like, why do you look like a dirtball?
I called you out hardcore.
And then I looked down and I'm wearing these Lululemon leggings, and I was like, man, these leggings feel super tight in the back. Like, is my butt getting that big? And then I like looked and the logo was on the front. I was like, cool, I have my pants on backwards. I haven't showered. I've worked out. We just did a team meeting. And now we're doing a podcast. So that is my day right now, you guys. I'm sure a lot of you can relate when your pants are on backwards and you haven't washed your hair in 4 days.
The worst is when you've got to the salon or you're at work and someone's like, I see your tag in the front. And you're like, yeah.
Do you know how many times that's happened to me? Like, I'll get my like hair, makeup, and everything done, and literally, I can't tell you how many times that would happen. Like last year, I'd come to the salon, and everyone's like, "Your shirt's on inside out." I'm like, "Well, it's lace. I don't know." Like,
or how about when the trend was that the seams were on the outside, so people would be like, "Your shirt's inside out." You're like, "No, I bought it like this."
I love it when like I'd wear a shirt like the trend with like the holy t-shirts.
Yeah,
some old guy would always have to be like, "Oh, it's a holy t-shirt." I'm like, never heard that.
Do you know my favorite?
Or those your holy jeans? You're like,
or they're like, "Did you pay more for the holes in your pants?" Actually, yeah.
I did, Grandpa. Go back home. Just kidding. But really, like, shenanigans today. But we wanted to squeeze in a podcast with you guys. Our podcasts are typically 30 minutes long. If you're an artist, you may get a good kick out of it. If you're an entrepreneur, you may get a good kick out of it. If you're a human being, you might like it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we always try to share value based on, like, what we're feeling or what our students are feeling, or just kind of talking about life in general. Today's topic, I actually wanted to talk about doing things with intention.
So what does that mean for you, Danielle? Like for someone to do something with intention?
Well, inside of our academy, like we introduce our students to just like basic marketing that we call Daily 4. Because it's so funny. People, it could go for artists, it could go for anybody, but like you're trying to build a business, a brand, whatever it is, but you're so scared to like put yourself out there, right? Mm-hmm. And there's 4 ways to communicate inside of Daily 4, and it's text, audio, video, and picture. And so we're like, hey, Daily 4, you just hit all these avenues, you shoot them out on social media, and that's going to be like your best way to start marketing yourself. And so what I find is we'll have students say like, I'm doing Daily 4, I'm doing everything I can. I'm like, but are you? I'm like, because there's like the checklist of doing things, and I always promote like consistency is huge. Like I think that people say, oh, this content sucks, or they're so hard on themselves that they don't actually post anything or do anything. And then like 6 weeks goes by or whatever, and you're like, how many times did you post? And they're like, well, I only like 2 of my posts. And I'm like, well, you need to start being consistent. You need to start getting reps, or you're never going to have better posts. And so I always think like it's okay to have like some posts where you're like, I don't know, it's not my favorite, it's not a home run, but you still have to be consistent. But then there's also times where it's like, don't be fucking lazy. Mm-hmm. Like you have to go, like whatever your marketing is, like put some thought, put some time around it, like do it with intention. Because if you don't, what we find is that people want to live in their stories of just doing the checklist, but you're not actually looking to grow.
I don't even know if you answered my question.
I don't know. I had a cup of coffee today, and I don't normally drink coffee, and I'm super lean right now.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, does she even answer my question? So here's what it means to me, which love everything you said, by the way, and I totally agree with it. So doing something with intention, guys, when you're starting a new project or you're looking at your marketing, or even take a look at like your household chores and things that you're doing. There's doing it just to like, fuck it, do it and get it done. And then there's going into a task, a project, whatever it is, and saying, this is the outcome I'm looking for. How do I get that outcome by doing these steps? Right. You're doing something intentionally as opposed to just wasting away time. Well, like people who always say like, oh, I'm too busy. I'm like, cool, you can be busy, but are you being productive?
Right.
Because to me, there's a vast difference. And I've said it before, but I've tried to like scrap that from my vocabulary of like, oh, I'm busy. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be busy. Yeah. I want to be productive, meaning everything that I do, whether it's for the business, whether it's for myself, like, am I doing it that I'm aiming for an outcome? Or am I just like, I don't know, I'm just going to like do it.
Sometimes we say we're busy to avoid doing things that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you like, and I think I've talked about this before, but I'm getting ready to do my first bikini show, which for me is kind of a big deal. Like
by the time they hear this, you'll only be like 4 days away from doing it.
I know. And it's so funny because I've always wanted to do it with each of my kids. And then I find some excuse, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. But with this last baby, like I had like some serious issues. Like I had like blood clotting and all these scary things. And it made me just kind of really think like, well, what could my body do? And so I really wanted to do it. And I remember I lost all my baby weight, and then I kind of got to this place where I was like, God, I'm like stressing about food. I'm working out all the time, but yet I'm like running on a hamster wheel. I'm like, what do I want the outcome to be? Because obviously what I'm doing, which I think is hard, is not giving me the outcome I wanted. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I really was like, I think I'm going to do a bikini competition. Like I love their figures. I love like their tone. They're not too toned. I'm like, I feel like I could do this, but what I'm doing right now is not currently working, right? Yeah. And so I literally just had to like do things with intention. And it's so funny that we were even talking about this because I never really lifted weights before. Like literally, yeah. I thought I was lifting weights, but I hired a coach specifically to help me with lifting weights. And the first day of training, she's like, "What are you doing? Like your back, you're like shrugging." She's like, "You have to think about the muscle group that you're actually working to get the results that you want." I'm like, that makes sense. And it's just, you have to do something with intention or you're not going to get the results that you want.
Yeah, like I see, and I think people think even like using your workout example, because I mean, I don't go to the gym often, especially now. I think they're still closed, but whatever. But even like where you see people, they pick up the biggest weights and they're like, and they do like 3 and then they're like, done with a workout. I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm no expert genius, but is that
doing anything? Is that giving you the outcome that you want?
Is that really like the best thing to give you the outcome that you want? And I feel that's when you're doing something with intention, you really have to think about it. And one of the biggest things I hear from artists, especially even now, that it's so interesting, they'll be like, oh, but I don't want to do anything. And not to take away from depression, but they'll say like, I'm depressed or I'm not motivated. I'm feeling discouraged, which I'm going to reiterate. So don't at me. Being depressed and being unmotivated and just like and lazy, not feeling like doing anything are 2 vastly different things. And I'm aware of that. I am not putting them in the same category. Let's be clear on that. But when artists come to me and they're like, I'm just like not motivated. I'm just feeling bummed. I'm like, okay, well, are you doing anything to even get yourself out of there? Yeah. Because when they reach that place, I feel like they just stop because they're like, oh, it doesn't sound fun. I don't want to do it. I already suck. So why try anymore? Right. Well, because you can't actually get better if you're not kind of okay with sucking in the beginning and then working to just not be as bad at something.
Well, and it's interesting too. Like we had a student just yesterday who she was saying like, I feel like I'm doing everything, but I still want more clients. And like, I just don't know what to do. And I had to have this moment where I'm like, and she's a single mom. And I remember I had to have this moment. I'm like, but are you doing everything that you could possibly do? Are you? I'm like, you're doing everything. Like we've kind of like given you this list of things to do, but like, are you doing everything? And I think we get to this place where like, I don't know what to do, but there's really like no good place to start. Yeah. You just like, there's this element of hustle. Like I know for me, like when my kids were little and we didn't have any money and I was a hairstylist and that was my skill and I didn't know what to do, I just fucking got on every online social media platform I could find and just talked about hair and talked about extensions and talked about being a mom. And I was like, I feel dumb. I feel so stupid doing this. Like, I'm actually kind of introverted. I'm kind of shy. Like, my family already thinks I'm kind of weird because social media wasn't like lives and all that shit wasn't going. And they're like, what is she doing? And I'm like in my bathroom talking about, and I didn't know the direction I was going, but I knew I had to do something. And so when I looked at this specific student yesterday, I was like, you just have to have this. Sometimes you have to have these seasons in life where you hustle. Like you just do. Like you just grind, you hustle. And even if you factor in an extra hour every single day, maybe it's before your kids get up in the morning and you're like, where is my marketing at? I posted once on Instagram. Is that all you can do? Well, and that's what I think becomes really interesting game. Like when you start asking yourself these questions of, am I doing everything that I could possibly do to get me this outcome? Because if you're sitting there and you're like, it's not working, well, then the next question logically is, well, am I doing everything? Right. But then I feel the answer that comes up is, oh, well, accountability. But it's not only that. It's like, oh, well, I'm not doing everything, but I don't want to do like that. Right. Or I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, so you're telling me you're not even willing to try. You're not even willing to go into it with the intention of like, I'm going to give it
everything I have to be better, to put my message out there, to get more clients, to have my product be well known, to build my brand, whatever it is, because and generally I feel it stems from a place of fear of like, oh, I might not be good at it. I'm definitely not good at it. It makes me uncomfortable. Welcome to the way of the world. But you look at it and you're like, yeah, I know I'm not doing everything. And someone says, well, you could do X, Y, Z. Yeah, I don't want to do that though. So I feel like then they start looking for like an easy button. So what you want is not actual help to help you get better. What you want is for me to come to you and say, here's the easiest thing in the fucking world that you could do to give you the outcome. But that's the thing. Yeah. If I tell you the easiest thing in the world, you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for. You're going to get a half-ass fucking result because you're doing half-ass work.
Well, and I even think too, I think a lot of like just touching base on like marketing, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I hired a marketing expert. I'm like, you're your fucking brand. You're your voice. You are who your clients are attracted to. I'm like, you can hire every goddamn expert in the world, but if you don't know the ins and outs of who you are as an individual and what you're trying to put out there, a branding expert or specialist or social media expert isn't going to do shit for you. So you need to get really clear with who you are and what your message is, and that will help your branding evolve. And then you can hire somebody who helps you oversee it, which is exactly what I did. I built everything I did. I just built by pouring my little soul out there, and now I have people that kind of help me manage it. We run ads, and we have people who we kind of work together as a team, because there becomes this element, and at least I've experienced as a business owner, where I'm like, God, I can't hustle the same way that I used to because my time is more valuable over here. So I can't spend an hour on social media every single day, like putting stuff out there and commenting to every DM. I can't, because my time is more valuable building systems and processes behind the scenes to set up all this social media that we're marketing. I have to build the foundation for my company. I built the brand, and now I'm building out the foundation. So in the beginning though, like you got to hustle, and I'm still hustling, but I'm hustling sort of behind the scenes in a different way to build a foundation for my company.
And I've seen that even with students where, and one student, for example, and I think we've talked about it before, maybe I told you privately, I don't know, but I saw her Instagram and I was like, that's a weird fucking photo. And then I started to read the caption, and the whole caption was like, you can put KY jelly lube in your hair.
We talked about that.
Yeah. And I was like, the whole thing, I was like,
and she had hired.
Well, hold on. So as I'm reading it, my mind is going, what the fuck did she just write? Like, that's bad. Right. So of course I messaged her. Turns out, yes, she hired some like fucking kid to do her social media, whatever.
You always think like, oh, those 20-year-olds, they're so good at that social media.
No, some of them fucking suck, which is totally cool. But here's what I want you to think about. The thing that you're trying to sell, whether it's your product, whether you're trying to build your business, it's a system, a software, it doesn't matter. You built it for a reason. And most likely that reason is because you're so passionate about the thing that you're selling, and that love and that passion and that heart and that soul that you have for that specific thing. If you hire outside, it's not going to work because they don't have the same passion. And even think about like, why are you listening to this podcast? Right. You listen because Danielle and I are so fucking passionate about what we do. We love it so much. We've literally poured our hearts and souls into all the education that we put out, and that comes across in everything we say. It comes off as authentic and true to who we are because it is authentic to us, and we believe everything we're saying. So if you think like, I don't have time, I'm too busy, whatever, so you're just gonna hire it out, you're literally shooting yourself in the foot and ruining any chances you have in the beginning, because this person can't put their heart into something they don't really give a shit about. You're just another client.
Well, and it's so funny because I remember in the beginning of building my brand, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just get on and talk about like hair products and get all sciencey, like sciencey hair talk, you know? And Garrett was like, why don't you, my husband Garrett, he's like, why don't you talk about like why you like extensions? I was like, oh, because I straight up have like Kid Rock homeless hair. Like, that's why. And he's like, you should say that. I was like,
you want me to say
and
what?
And this was before like being super authentic online was kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember that's actually how I built my brand. I got up and I was like on a few videos, and I was like, the best extensions for fine hair. And I was like, all right, kids, like I straight up I was like nervous on camera, like everything. I was just like, I have shitty hair. That was my whole message in my blog in the very beginning, and it got clients in the door like clockwork. And all I said was like, I have toddler hair. I've tried every extensions out there. My hair sucks. And I just threw myself under the bus and told my story. And still and it was very authentic and women related. And it wasn't like I was trying to sell some Pantene Pro V fucking wig. I was like, no, my hair sucks, and here's what I can do for you. And people started to trust it so much that they started doing consultations with me over the phone. I was willing to talk them into not just coming to me, but flying in and experience these extensions. And that's how I started my brand. And as I started to do that, I picked up more certainty and confidence in what I was offering, even though it was still super authentic. And I still have like that same story even inside of my student base. I was like, and you guys have heard me talk about it. I'm like, I was a mom. I had no fucking money. I had to figure out how to take this skill of being a hairdresser and doing the extensions and figure out how to brand and position and market it so that I could be successful for my family. And now down the road, like seeing how many stylists and artists it's impact, it keeps me pushing and keeps me like wanting to help more people.
Well, and I think that sometimes you don't even realize how good of an idea you have until you start doing something. And I have such a great example. I literally had to look it up on my phone to make sure that I'm saying the correct YouTube account. There is a guy, and he started a YouTube account that's called Dad, How Do I? Because those are questions that kids ask. They're like, I ask my dad all the time, like, hey, Dad, how do I do this? Or how do I do this? And he was like, literally just this normal dude was like, I think it'd be fun to make like some cool YouTube tutorials on like, how do I change a tire? Hey, Dad, how do I change my oil? Like normal household things blew the fuck up. Really? He has almost 3 million followers, and literally, I was watching it for days.
I could see you, like, because you're...
Yeah, I loved it. But what I thought was so cool, but I'm telling you, like, for days, I kept watching, just even from a marketing perspective, because I saw it popping up on TikTok, on, like, on, not ads, but, like, on my Instagram, it was popping up, and people kept talking about it more and more. And I realized I'm like, this normal dude, he ended up doing, like, a video crying, being like, I'm so overwhelmed by the amount of love I've received. He's like, I'm going to do my best to, like, help you guys and like stand up to like essentially the platform they put him on. Yeah. But that started with a normal person, a normal dad just being like, I want to help. Hopefully one person watches this. Right. Now it's millions of viewers watching the Dad, How Do I thing. But had he not got out of his bubble, and this guy has to be at late 40s, if not 50s, if not older, because he has older kids. If he hadn't got out of his bubble to be like, you know what, this seems like a kind of good idea maybe. I'm just going to see what comes out of it. And he slowly started with a couple videos, and that was it. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, I never realized how much I needed that. Even people who are like, my dad had passed away early, or my dad was never around, or like my dad is
like
here,
the
but
basics of life.
Literally,
I still call my dad to this age. You know, like, Garrett knows nothing about, like, even if I have to change the filters in the house, I'm like, Garrett, go change the filters. He's like, oh, I don't even know where they are. I'm like,
see, and I'll give mad props to my boyfriend. I told him, I'm like, I think literally the other day I was like, I think this outlet doesn't work because it does this and this. He went to fucking Lowe's, got a new like outlet, and he started like looking up YouTube videos on how to change the electricity. And I was like, that seems sketch, but I'm gonna let you do it because I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do anything either, but I'm a big YouTuber. I YouTube everything. In fact, that's how I like self-taught myself a lot of things in life.
But even like I said, like this guy went in with like an intention of, you know what, it was the simplest idea. And I think we as humans believe that this idea has to be big, great, it has to be big, grand, great, huge, but you build on a simple idea. And his idea was, I want to help people do normal things that they don't know how to do.
Right. It's interesting too, because I feel like in our program, we have our students create what's called a funnel, and they're like, trying to just get to them to grasp the idea as a funnel is like you are just building your own authentic brand that you can share through video and text. And it's like, I always encourage girls, like, because they'll want to tell my story almost. You know what I mean? They'll be like, these extensions they want to give you a hit list of like why these extensions look so natural. I'm like, that's great. Like MBR is like, I believe is a phenomenal product. I think it's beautifully done. I think our education is spot on. However, what's going to hook a client? Yeah, they might want to know what's different about it, but what's really going to hook a client is, what is your story? Why do you love it? Why do you wear it in your hair? Why do you offer it to your clients? Share why your clients love it. Share your clients' experiences. And then you can go into the tactical side of why you love it. But if you can share somebody an authentic story of why you love it, that feels like you're genuinely helping people and you're doing something with intention versus just like, well, I like MBR because it gives you a lot of fullness. It's quicker in the salon and you're done. You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, sit down for a minute and write down all the things like, why does this? And I think that's just how it goes with marketing. Like, sometimes I'll do like a quick marketing where it's like, I'm like, 22-inch hair, click here to learn more or whatever.
Totally.
And then sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. And I'll go into my voice notes and literally like do something with intention that I'll use for marketing later.
And there's always going to be like highs and lows, days where, and you've said this before, but it's days where you're like, I nailed it. Yeah. I'm a marketing genius. And days where you're like, you know what? That's not my best, but at least you're being like, I'm being consistent and I'm putting something something out there. You just want to make sure that, you just want to make sure that those days where you're like, I'm just going to do it to get it done, those days can't overlap and outnumber the days that are being intentional. And you feel like you're like, I really put some thought and effort into that.
And if you fall off being consistent, you can never become great. Like, you just can't. You need repetition. So you're never going to have those like, fucking did it moments if you're not consistent, because you just don't have the repetition behind doing it.
Dude, tell that to my workout routine. I know.
Shut up, Ani.
It's real hard.
I actually was having like an emotional moment the other day because I'm like 10 days out, and I've started like the cutting process, and I like literally every day I wake up and I'm like, hey you, and I kind of got emotional the other night, and I was like, I fucking did it, because like usually you only train for like 3 or 4 months, but like I had a baby, I took 6 months to lose the weight, and then I was like, 3 months I'll do a bikini competition, and they kept getting canceled. I've been training for 9 fucking months. Like,
you serious?
It's hard on your body. That long? I've been eating goddamn chicken and rice and broccoli for 9.
Do you know I eat
I just want a pan of brownie. Somebody please mail me a pan of brownies or some donuts.
Girl, I got
next
you.
Week. Somebody, I want an array. Actually, I'll probably get sick, but
how about I got you? I'll make a mini size so you can only have one bite,
I want
and then you're done. A Pizookie? Oh, from BJ's, girl.
I want 6 shots of tequila. No.
And you know what? You want to know how I know I'm loved? I got home yesterday. We had an event yesterday, and I always go home, and I feel like we do so much talking during the day that I get home, and I'm literally silent.
I literally melt into the couch. I'm like,
dude, yes. And I feel like anyone who knows me, in case you can't tell on the podcast, I'm a talker by nature. Right. Put me anywhere, I can talk about just about anything to anyone. That's so funny
you said that. Literally, Garrett came home, and like I didn't say anything. Like Parker was like, everybody was there talking, and I finally at 8 o'clock at night, I was like, I'm just tired of the noise. And I just like went upstairs and laid in my bed and watched a movie at 8.
Oh, I feel you. I went and I sat on the couch, and I have 2 puppies. One's 27 pounds, one's a 6-pound baby. And I literally sat snuggling them, and eventually I just felt myself teetering lower and lower, and I fell asleep. But when I woke up, props to my boyfriend, he was like, dinner's ready. I was like, thank you.
You fell asleep before dinner?
Yeah, I was so fucking tired. And then he's like, dinner's ready. I was like, great. Ate dinner.
Well,
and then he's like,
me?
I jokingly was like, can you pick me up and just put me in the dining room chair? He's like, no, I won't do that. And then he's like, well, hey, what do you want for dessert? We're real big dessert people. And he's like, what do you want for dessert? I'm like, we don't have anything. He's like, you might want to open the fridge. Okay, seriously, I love mini M&Ms. There was a whole thing of mini M&M cookies in there. And I was like, we're having mini M&Ms. Anyway, I don't know how we got being proud, but here's delicious. What it is. When you're so proud of yourself because you know you've put in so much work, that's where you're going.
Right.
When you're so proud of yourself, but you'll never get to that point if you don't put in the work, even on days when you're like I'm sure, honestly, have you had days where you've had like a half-ass workout?
All the time. All the time. And people like assume I'm like super perfect with my diet and I'm super perfect with my workouts. I'm like, no, I do fucking work hard. I will say that.
Totally.
But I am very consistent. And I know if I had a bad day, I'm like, I'm not done. Like, I'm not done. Like, once I'm very task oriented. When I like set my mind to a goal, I even got to this place with my body where I was like, I look good. Fuck it. I don't want to do a competition. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do it. Got the fucking sparkly bikini. Like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like and now that I'm glad that I pushed myself to that next phase, because it's like when you do that, it opens like a whole new human being in yourself. You're like, you have this moment where you're like, I can do anything.
And it's a matter of, and I like what you just said, because I weirdly talked about this on my Instagram this morning. A lot of people think like something happens in a day and they're like, this is a terrible day. It's a stupid week. Yeah. What a bad month. 2020. Okay, 2020's been a little rough, but the year sucks. And all of a sudden you took like a kind of annoying, bad, irritating, like 5 minutes or a small
situation. And it turned into like a month.
Yeah, and you kind of over-rotated and made that like mountain out of a molehill type of situation where then you're like, oh yeah, I missed daily for one day, or I missed my marketing one day, or I missed my posting, or I forgot to do this one thing one day. I'm garbage, it's garbage, everything is garbage. And then you literally just like quit. Guys, we're not
It's not even
perfect.
that you quit though. It's almost like you keep like going lower and lower. And
yeah,
then, like,
but by the time you're done going lower, you've stopped doing everything.
Is like, I know you guys can't see me, but imagine like you're, flatlining here and you stop your daily 4, you stop whatever you're doing, and you don't actually realize you're like literally digressing. So now you're way down here. So not only do you have to like meet back up to your flat line, like it seems like that much more work to climb the ladder and then to get above. So like by stopping, you actually regress, and now you have to grow twice as much. And I even like, this goes with everything in life. This goes for relationships, this goes for business, this goes for fitness, this goes for food, this goes for whatever. And I even like had done this in the past with my relationships where Garrett and I would get in a fight, and instead of actually having a conversation the next day, we were almost like distance. And then we got so distant that we're like, neither of us even wanted to have a conversation. We were in that numb phase. And then we went from numb from being like, should we even be married? Like, I don't even care anymore. But we let ourselves both like go, like we were here and we just let ourselves continue to like go this direction.
Well, and even talking about like date night and relationships, think about the intention. Like when you do date night, like think about you, the listener, when you do date night, if you're even doing it with your significant other, is it like phones away, intentional time together? Like I'll say I'm the bad one versus me and my boyfriend. Like I'm definitely the one who will be like, but that was Voxer. It could be important.
Right.
So that's, for me, do not disturb has been a godsend. So we know when it's like, no, we are doing date night. We have a plan. Like next week.
Make it fun.
Yeah. And like this week we're going golfing. Have I ever golfed? No. Do you know this morning I was practicing my golf swing in my bedroom with Matt putting a hat on the ground going, all right, this is how you putt. And we were crying, laughing.
We suck at golfing, but
yeah, but even in that, I know we're not just doing a date night to say, oh, well, we did a date night. We spent time together. We're going to go into it. We're going to put our phones on do not disturb. The plan is to laugh, joke around, see how many things. I want to yell 4. I want to yell 4 at one point. 4.
You're not going to even hit it on the green, but you're cute.
Oh, I'm going to hit it so fucking far. And if not, I'm going to take a ball and chuck it and be like, that was my ball.
I did that too. It's called, you just drop it on the green and then you cut. So, but what's so funny is that like, I've had couples in the past where like I've had friends where like they never want to go out with just themselves. They're always like, I need another couple to go out with. Like I would challenge you, like if you're that person in a relationship and you always feel like you need to go out with your friends, like you're not actually spending quality time with your significant other. And I remember I was at a place like that with Garrett and I was like, oh, I don't actually want to like sit face to face with you because I knew it would like, we'd have to have probably some real conversations about like maybe the fight we had like a month ago or whatever it was. You know what I mean? But we were with friends, we could unplug and we could avoid the elephant in the room.
Yeah, that almost
it was like a false reality of that we were happy because we had fun with our friends, but it didn't actually. Then we wondered why we felt like roommates.
Well, and I feel like that almost teeters it back to like a false sense of like intimacy, because there's a difference between sex and intimacy. You can have sex and not have intimacy, and if you can't spend intentional one-on-one time with your partner, I feel like there's obviously other problems that need to be addressed. And that could be one of them.
And sometimes it's a long, slippery slope, and it takes you a long time to get out of that. Do you know what I mean?
You have to be willing to do the work.
It's just, these are just like life lessons. Like I said, like it could go in relationships, it could go in business. You could have a business that's going completely south, and you keep avoiding the elephant in the room, and then you think you have to like dig yourself out of this hole, but you created that hole that you just dug yourself in.
Yeah. And guys, it's not easy, but it is worth it in the end. And you will eventually come to the place where you have that like, you know what, I'm really proud of myself moment. But you're never going to get there if you just, and if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know where to start, pick a place.
Yeah, just pick a place.
Just pick a fucking place to start. It doesn't matter.
I have a challenge for everybody who is listening to this podcast. Number 1, whatever it is you're doing in life that you want to improve on, be consistent with. Number 2, let go of the guilt. Just fucking let go of the guilt and work on being consistent. Number 3, when you start doing your consistent thing, whatever it is you're doing, start focusing and doing it with intention, and just see where that takes you this next month.
So guys, thank you for being here for the Big Money Stylist podcast. If you would like to actually see us and our mannerisms and everything we do, you can go to dkwstyling.com. We have a new podcast coming out every week, and I was going
to say our education, if you're a stylist, is sold out for the year. We do have a wait list. If you go to bigmoneystylist.com, you can join our email list. Our events sell out really quickly. So if you want event news, things like that, make sure again that you join our email list at bigmoneystylist.com. So thanks you guys so much for listening. We'll see you next week with another either spicy or value topic, whatever you guys want to hear. You can like message us too on Instagram. If there's a specific topic that you want to hear, DM us, and we're happy to cover that as well. Yep. So we'll see you guys next week.